You say, I 1,000 times a day, but have you ever found who speaks? Is it the body that keeps changing? The thoughts that won't stay still? What if the self is not a thing, but a story? Buddhism calls it Anatta, no fixed self. Neuroscience agrees. Your brain assembles identity like a mirror made of shifting glass. Every time you look, the reflection changes. So, who are you, really? You search inside, behind your eyes, beneath your thoughts, hoping to find a center. But the deeper you look, the more it slips away, like chasing a horizon that moves as you walk. What if there is no core, just layers of habits, memories, and roles, playing themselves? You say, this is who I am, pointing to a name, a past, a face. But aren't these just costumes you've worn for so long they feel like skin? Underneath them all, who remains when no one's watching? Neuroscience tells us the self is not a single thing. It's a process, like a movie made of snapshots. You believe there's a you behind your eyes, but that belief is part of the illusion. Thoughts arise uninvited. Emotions move without command. Yet you claim them as yours. But if you are the thinker, why do thoughts surprise you? A candle burns and flickers. Is the flame always the same, or just a pattern of light? The self, too, is a flicker, continuous only in memory. Notice the stillness between two breaths. That space, quiet, formless, might be closer to your true self than any thought or name. Sometimes you notice your own thoughts, as if you're watching a storm pass through glass. If you can observe the mind, are you not something else? Not the thought, but the space behind it. Not the storm, but the sky. That silent witness, ever still, never named, may be the only part of you that doesn't change. Your sense of self is stitched from fragments, memories, habits, stories others told you. But memories are unreliable. They fade, shift, lie. What if the person you think you are is just a narrative you've edited so many times? You've forgotten. It's fiction. Inside you, there are many voices. One wants to rest, another to act. One forgives, the other resents. Which is the real you? Maybe there isn't one. Maybe you are a parliament of selves, shifting, negotiating, never fully agreeing, but all speaking from the same mouth. We assume someone is in charge, a captain behind the wheel. But when scientists scan the brain, they find no single self. Only signals firing, systems reacting. The I is an afterthought. A clever story told by a body trying to make sense of itself. If you can dream you're someone else and believe it completely, how do you know this isn't the same? What if waking life is just another dream, where the dreamer forgets they're dreaming? The self, too, may be asleep, so deep we mistake it for being awake. Try this. Close your eyes and search for I. Not your body, not your breath, the part that says me. What do you find? A sensation? A feeling? Or just silence? The more you look, the more the self slips like smoke through your fingers. Perhaps the I was never there, only the act of looking. The ego is not evil. It's a tool, a mask you wear to survive the world, to speak, to act. But problems begin when you forget you're wearing it. The mask becomes a face, and the face becomes your prison. Freedom lies not in removing it, but in remembering that it was never you. You were once a child, curious, raw, real. That self is gone now. But did it die? Or was it buried under years of expectation, pain, and roles? If the self was real, how could it vanish so easily? Maybe the you today is just the latest version, one that will fade too. Much of what you believe about yourself came from others. A parent's voice, a friend's judgment, a stranger's gaze. Over time, their reflections became your shape. But if you stripped them all away, what would remain? A self? Or simply silence? Some traditions say, you are like a river, always flowing, never still. There's no fixed point you can call self. Just movement, experience, change. If so, then perhaps freedom begins not by holding on to identity, but by letting it go. You didn't choose your name, your language, your earliest beliefs. They were given, installed like code in a machine. So how much of you is yours? And how much is inherited, absorbed without question? If the self is programmed, who or what is the programmer? There are moments, brief, fleeting, when the I disappears. Watching a sunset, deep in music, lost in dance. In those moments, you are not a self. You are just awareness. No thought, no label, just being. And strangely, in losing yourself, you feel most alive. We cling to identity, not because it's real, but because without it, we fear the void. The empty space where I should be. But maybe that void is not emptiness, but freedom. Not the absence of self, but the space in which everything else can arise. You are not the image in the mirror, but the mirror itself, clear, reflective, unnoticed. The mind moves, thoughts flicker, but something beneath it all remains still, aware, watching. Not a person, not a name, just the act of seeing. Could that be the true self? When you peel back the layers, gender, culture, memory, thought, you begin to see there's no solid core, no unchanging center, just layers and the awareness that observes them. And maybe that's the point. The self was never a thing, but a process. A flame, not a stone. Your habits, your fears, your hopes, many of them were planted years ago. A child scolded becomes an adult anxious to please. A compliment becomes a lifelong pursuit. You carry echoes that no longer belong to you, yet they whisper, this is who you are. You think, but are you your thoughts? One moment they tell you you're a genius, the next, a failure. They rise and fall like clouds, but the sky remains. If you are the one watching the thoughts come and go, then how could you be the thoughts themselves? You believe you are the doer of actions, that you choose, act, and direct your life. But modern neuroscience shows decisions form before you're even aware of them. If choice arises before you speak, then who or what is making the choice? In dreams, you are many selves, a hero, a stranger, a witness. You don't question it. You flow with the role. And when you wake, it dissolves. So how do you know this self, the one watching now, isn't just another role in a dream not yet broken? Watch closely. Today's self is not yesterday's. Your beliefs change, your reactions evolve. You grow tired of old things, crave new ones. The self is not a statue. It's a flame, constantly moving, burning, flickering. It never stays still. So what is there to hold? Behind every emotion, beneath every identity, there is something quietly watching. It does not speak. It does not judge. It simply sees. The ego shouts, but the observer whispers. And if you sit long enough in stillness, you may notice. It's always been there. You're a child to your parents, a leader at work, a stranger to most. Each mask fits a moment. But if all of them are roles, then where is the actor? The longer you wear the mask, the easier it is to forget there was ever a face beneath it. A trauma, a great loss, a psychedelic experience. These moments tear through the illusion of identity like fire through paper. And in that naked space, no roles, no names, no I, there is terror and liberation. What dies is not you, only the idea of you. Even as you watch it fall apart, the ego fights to rebuild. I am this, it says. I was that, but every claim fades. And in its final act, it whispers, don't let me go. The illusion doesn't want to die, But the truth doesn't need to survive. It simply is. When all names are forgotten, when all thoughts grow still, something remains. It does not think. It does not strive. It simply exists, like the silence between notes in a song. This is not the self. This is what the self hides. And what it fears you will discover. Imagine holding a mirror and seeing nothing. No face, no identity, no image, just space. It's unsettling but freeing. Because the mirror was never meant to show you who you are, only to show that you are. And sometimes that's enough. Science looks for the self in the brain and finds circuits, firing patterns, chemicals. But nowhere is me hiding. The closer we look, the more the self dissolves. Like chasing the horizon, it's always ahead until you realize it was never real to begin with. Sit long enough in silence and I begins to fade. Not violently, but gently, like fog burning off in morning light. The thoughts come, but you don't cling. The stories rise, but you no longer believe. In this stillness, something deeper listens. Much of who you believe you are is just words. I am smart. I am broken. I am enough. But words are symbols, shadows of truth. Take them away, and what remains? Something too vast to speak, too fluid to name, too alive to define. It takes courage to let go of the only thing you've ever clung to, yourself. But in the falling apart, there is clarity. You don't disappear, you expand. No longer a name, a story, a memory, but something vast, something watching, something free. You call this body you, but it's borrowed. Skin from the earth, breath from the air, bones from time. It ages, it aches, it leaves, yet you cling because the costume feels safe. But what if the actor isn't inside, but beyond the stage entirely? You are not a stone. You are a stream, always moving, always changing. No single drop defines the river, yet the river remains. The self is not a fixed thing. It is a process. And clinging to one moment in that flow is what creates suffering. Even growth can be a prison. I must become better, wiser, more me. But who decides that? The same illusory self you're trying to escape. You cannot fix a ghost. The way out is not becoming more. It is becoming less, until only truth remains. You can see the world, the stars, the past, but never the self directly. Like an eye trying to see itself, the self hides behind all perception. And perhaps that's the answer. You are not what you see, but that which sees. In the end, there is no self-defined, no I to awaken. Only awareness, unfolding without owner. The journey you took was a dream, and the dreamer? Also a dream. What remains is silence. Still, infinite, home. One day, the thought arises. Who is thinking this? And there's no answer. Just a gap, a breath, a vastness where once was you. That's not fear, it's freedom. The final echo of I fades, and what's left is life, just as it is. The wave rises and calls itself me. It fears crashing, but it forgets it is water. And when it returns to the sea, nothing is lost, only a name. The self was the wave, but what you truly are is the ocean. You used to fear the silence. Now it feels like home. Thoughts come and go, but you don't chase them. Emotions rise, but they pass like clouds. What was once chaos is now clarity. You are no longer the noise. You are the space around it. You spent a lifetime asking, who am I? What is real? But now, even the questions fall away. Not because you've answered them, but because you no longer need to. Peace does not come from knowing. It comes from not needing to know. You still live, breathe, laugh, but not from me. Life moves and you let it. There's no one steering, yet everything flows. The self didn't die, because it never lived. And what remains now, finally, is truth in motion. You've been staring into a mirror, hoping to see yourself clearly, but the mirror was cracked, always reflecting fragments. Then one day, it shatters, and instead of panic, there's stillness. No reflection, no self. Just the raw presence of being. The last layer peels away, the final belief, the final mask. There is no observer left, no thinker behind the thought. Only experience, arising and dissolving. The self was a cloak draped over the world. Now it slips away, and nothing is hidden anymore. At the end of the path, you don't find your true self. You find absence. The one who walked the path was never there. And strangely, this is not loss. It is liberation. You were never a thing to be discovered. You were always the space in which everything happened.